I know I said that a lot of the books on this list were dark and bizarre, but this book by far is the darkest. Hi everyone, I'm Triya, and today I'm sharing my top 10 books that I read in 2024. Some were terrifying, others thought-provoking, but all of them left a lasting impression. If you're into stories that push boundaries or even keep you up at night, then this list is for you. Let's get straight into it. So in 10th place, we have this book, The Last White Man by Mohsin Hamid. So this is a semi-dystopian novel where white people's skin turns dark, so turns black or brown. And the story follows a character called Anders, who is white, and one day he wakes up as an unspecified person of colour. He begins to feel this low level of anxiety that people of colour feel in a white majority society. It reminded me of the book called Blindness by Jose Saramago, which is one of my all-time favourite books. That novel discusses a dystopian world where everyone goes blind, and the book focuses on how civilization breaks down and how this epidemic ravages society. Whereas this book feels more personal and it focuses more on the individual experience. So the whole time while I was reading this book, I was trying to figure out who is this last white man that is referred to in the title of the book. And when I finally found out, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. In 9th place is a book called Into the Drowning Deep by Mira. This book is for the sci-fi and horror fans. So this is a book that follows a deep sea expedition where the scientists encounter these killer mermaids, or sirens as they're known. So the reason why I chose this book is because in the summer I rewatched H2O, a childhood favourite TV show of mine, which is about mermaids, if you didn't know. And after watching that show, I felt a desire to read a book about mermaids. This is really going out of my comfort zone in terms of genre, but this one came highly recommended. Whilst it does start a bit slow, the book really gets going, and once it does, it's like an action movie. There's this chilling scene where this diver goes down in an individual pod to the deepest part of the ocean in the Mariana Trench, and she encounters the sirens for the first time, and it's chilling. Plus this book features a wonderfully diverse cast with lots of LGBTQ, non-white and disabled characters in a way that feels really authentic. And I'm honestly surprised that this book hasn't been made into a film already because it lends itself so well to one. In 8th place is Blood Feast by Malika Moustadraf. This is a collection of short stories by Moroccan author Malika Moustadraf. She is often considered a pioneer of feminist literature in Morocco. She typically writes stories about the harsh realities faced by marginalised women in Morocco. In the stories in Blood Feast, she tackles many topics like misogyny, poverty, sexual violence, and the daily struggles of women living in a patriarchal society. The stories are brutally vivid and raw, and in one, a mother schemes to ensure that her daughter passes a virginity test, and in another story, I think it's the first ever instance of cybersex in Arabic literature. In 7th place is a book called Trash by Sylvia Aguilar Zeleny. So this is a story that explores the struggles and resilience of women living in a border town near the US-Mexico border, and it follows the lives of these 3 women who are all connected some way or another to a big municipal trash heap. There's one girl who experiences sexual assault at a very young age and is kicked out of her home to live in the trash dump. There is a transgender sex worker, and the other woman is a doctor. The way that the book is written is that it has the 3 different perspectives of these women, and although the stories initially are very distinct, you quickly see how they're connected as the book goes on. And Trash does a phenomenal job of highlighting the struggles of women living in poverty at the borderline. In 6th place, we have The Vegetarian by Kang. In case you don't know, Kang is a South Korean author. Her book Vegetarian is quite unsettling, but really vivid and exciting. I've actually been meaning to read this book for a while. It came out in 2016, and my mum and I both independently decided to read it at exactly the same time. And it happened to be just days before it was announced that Kang won the Nobel Prize in Literature this year. And my mum and I were like, wow, this is amazing. We totally called it, even though obviously we had no idea. At its core, it's about this woman called Young-hae who makes the radical decision to stop eating meat after experiencing a series of disturbing dreams. And this seemingly simple act of defiance leads to shockwaves and a lot of repercussions for her family, and their lives completely unravel. And this book forces the readers to confront these uncomfortable questions about autonomy and a woman's place in society. It's a dark novel, but I think that's the overarching theme of this list. Okay, so in 5th place is Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata. She is a Japanese author who's best known for her work Convenience Store Woman. Like her other work, Life Ceremony is a deeply bizarre and strange novel. If you liked Convenience Store Woman for its quirky and unconventional tone, then you'll really like this book. So it's a collection of short stories. One of the standout stories is Life Ceremony, and it tells a story about a society where human remains are eaten by the loved ones of someone who died as a part of the funeral rites. And this story challenges a lot of taboos about life and death and society. And in classic Murata style, you need a strong stomach to read her work. In fourth place, we have Love Marriage by Monica Ali. You may know Monica Ali as the author of the famous novel Brick Lane. Love Marriage is her latest novel, and it feels like it was written for me, or at least someone like me. It follows a story of this girl called Yasmin, who is a 26-year-old doctor from a British Bengali family living in London. When I first read this book, I was so shocked because I am also a 26-year-old British Bengali doctor who works in London. So yeah, I really like this book. In this story, Yasmin is engaged to another doctor called Joe, who's white. As the book progresses, Yasmin learns a lot of things about herself, her family, and her fiance's family that she had no idea really existed. For example, she thinks that her parents are these stereotypically sexually repressed Asian middle-aged people, but she finds out that she's so wrong in so many different ways. This book delves into some heavy themes like sex addiction, assault, and arranged marriages. And what I love most about Love Marriage is that it is just so dramatic. I just could not put this book down. And there were so many moments where I had to just stop reading and gasp and look around and be like, oh my god, are you seeing this as well? I talk about this a lot, but representation really matters. And it's not just about seeing yourself in a story, it's also about exploring the complexities of who you are. In third place is this book, which is Blonde Roots by Bernardine Evaristo. So this book is about a retelling of slavery, where the narrative is flipped. So it's a world where Africans enslaved Europeans. And the story follows a European woman called Doris who is captured and enslaved. Through her eyes, we see the brutalities of slavery, especially to women. And Evaristo doesn't shy away from the horrors of sexual assault and rape, and not in a way that feels trivial or sensationalizing, which is something that I feel like many authors get wrong. But what really makes this book stand out so much is how vivid it is. Like, the world building is just incredible and so detailed. It's funny and unputdownable. Is that a word? It should be. I bought this from an airport in Rome, and it was one of the best decisions that I made. Because my phone got stolen on that trip, but at least this book came out of it. In second place is this book. It's called Reservoir Bitches by Dahlia de la Cerda. So this is a collection of short stories about women, and it's set in Mexico. And the short stories are really powerful and compelling, and it tackles subject matters such as systemic inequalities, sexual assault, misogyny, and the life of women living in Mexico. The title itself is a subversive nod to Quentin Tarantino's film Reservoir Dogs, but here the bitches are women standing strong in the face of misogyny and violence. And the writing reflects the brutality of what her characters go through. One of the overarching themes of the book seems to be brutal violence against women, but it doesn't seem unnecessary or crass. In fact, it seems really, really necessary. And it's not written from the perspective of the male gaze, so there's not this permissive feeling of sensationalization or arousal around the topics of sex and sexual violence. It's definitely a book that I could not forget about. Okay, and finally, in first place, we have The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez. So I know I said that a lot of the books on this list were dark and bizarre, but this book by far is the darkest. So Enriquez is an Argentinian author and known as a pioneer in the world of feminist body horror. So this is another collection of short stories, and I know I've had a lot of those on this list, but this has really been the year of short stories for me. But these short stories are spine-chilling and unforgettable. There's this one story about this group of obsessive fangirls. They're obsessed with a singer, and they take their obsession so far that when he dies, they exhume his corpse and they eat his remains to feel close to him. I can't think about it in the night because I literally will not sleep. So if you love feminist horror that explores the grotesque and the psychological, then this book is for you. Just be prepared, it's not for the faint-hearted. Okay, so there you have it. That's my top 10 books that I read this year in 2024. I hope that you found something to add to your reading list from mine, and I'd love to hear what books you read and enjoyed this year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.